In this video, we will show you how to replace your spark plugs on this Mercury Grand Marquis between the year ranges of 2003 and 2011. Your spark plugs will be located on either side of your engine. Let's get into it. Let's make our way right up here to the top engine cover. On the rear center, you'll find a screw that you can remove using a 1/4-inch drive square socket. Once you have that loose, you can remove this cover and set it aside. Now with that cover out of the way, to do the driver's side bank of the spark plugs, you'll find that you have your air inlet tube in the way. Over on the passenger side, you have nothing in the way. We'll continue on the driver's side. The process will be the exact same thing once you get this out of the way. Let's move along to removing our breather tube. For this, where my index finger is, you're going to find a little tab that you can gently press down, which will unlock this, and then you can slide it away from the inlet tube. Now we can move along to using an 8mm socket or a flathead screwdriver to loosen this clamp just enough that we can slide this off of our throttle body. We'll grab this, give it a little wiggle. Follow that tube down to where it connects onto the upper air filter housing. Continue with your 8mm or flathead screwdriver to loosen this clamp as well. Once you've done that, remove this inlet tube. We'll give that a quick inspection and set it aside. At this point, we have clear access to all 4 of our ignition coils, making their way down the line underneath your fuel rail. Now, of course, it does look like you have to remove the fuel rail to gain access to these, but you don't necessarily have to. The process for removing any of these 3 will be the exact same thing, even though they are underneath the fuel rail. With that said, remove the electrical connector for your ignition coil. Underneath the bottom here, you'll find a little squeeze tab. Squeeze that in and lift this up and off. A quick check for corrosion. Set it aside. Once you have the electrical connector off of there, you're going to remove the 1 7mm headed bolt that holds the ignition coil down to the intake. Go ahead and grab onto that ignition coil, give it a little wiggle, and start lifting it up and away. There's that. It's a good idea to give this boot a quick inspection. Make sure it's not torn, worn, or damaged in any way. Assuming that looks okay, set it aside. Now that we have that out of there, continue on with 2 rags. I'll put one inside this port and one inside this port. Now we'll use some compressed air inside the port where our ignition coil was and where the spark plug is located. To remove the spark plug, you want to make sure you use a 5/8 spark plug socket. It's important to make sure it's a spark plug socket that has the little rubber grommet inside to hold that spark plug while you lift it up and out of the port. There it is, friends. Okay, friends, it's time to install our spark plug. Before you go ahead and put this into the engine, have a look down at the end here. You have your ground strap that comes across close to that center electrode. Make sure it doesn't look like it got peened over or damaged in any way. Assuming that looks good, go ahead and slide this into your spark plug socket and start installing it into the engine. Whenever you do this, you need to make sure you do it entirely by hand so you do not damage the spark plug or worse, the engine. Once you have that bottomed out, torque it to 159 inch-pounds. Let's get ready to reinstall our ignition coil. When you do this, it's a good idea to use a little bit of dielectric grease just along the bottom of the boot where your spark plug goes. Once you've done that, slide it down into the engine and line up your mounting bolt hole. With that aligned, go ahead and start in that mounting bolt and then snug it up. Now we can torque this to 53 inch-pounds. Reconnect the wire for your ignition coil. Listen for a click, give it a tug. At this point, it's a good idea to make sure that you replace all the spark plugs going down the line. The process will be the exact same thing for this side, and over on the other side, they're right out in the open, just like this as well. Once you have all of your spark plugs replaced on the driver's side, you can continue on to removing each of your rags. With both of those out of there, continue on to the air inlet tube. We'll slide this into position, and then we'll start on both of our clamps and snug them up. Double check as you tighten the clamps to make sure they're completely secured. Reattach your breather hose. Double check to make sure it's completely secured. You don't want any dirty or unmetered air making its way into the engine. Once you've replaced all of your spark plugs, it's time to reinstall your upper engine cover. Looking along the front of the cover, you'll see that you have two slots, and up along the top, towards the rear of it, you have the hole for that one mounting nut. On top of your alternator, you have two little pitons that protrude out. That's for those slots along the front, and then up here's the stud for that mounting nut. There they are. Okay friends, we've got the car back together. At this point, go ahead and start it up. Let it run for a little while. Make sure you don't have a check engine light or a running condition. After that, take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.